Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief of prince of Meshach and Tuval. Why am I against you? Because you're against Israel. All this anti-Semitic stuff y'all are hearing, all this anti-Israel, the Jew hatred, it is a spirit. Oh, it's politics and it's ethnicity. It is a spirit. Hatred for Israel is hatred for God. I don't care how much they say Christ is king. I don't care how much they talk about Jesus and the Bible. Those who hate Israel and the Jewish people hate the God of Israel. They may be deluding themselves, but the Bible is very, very clear about this. Verse 4, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia and Libya again, the Cush and Phut, both descendants of Ham. He's talking about different regions of Africa. All of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people. We understand that there's a prophetic call on Africa to usher the nations to Zion. The problem then becomes Africa is named among Israel's enemies, which again should trouble us if we truly understand that there's a prophetic call. Here, Psalm 68 says, Cush shall bring the gift to Zion. And then Ezekiel 38 says, and then Cush is going to be named among Israel's enemies to try to destroy Zion. It's not schizophrenia. He's explaining the warfare within this region that will be split between those who walk out what Makeda did, who will follow the Queen of Sheba's example, right? Remember, she stood there and said, God loves Israel forever. Ezekiel lets us know that this region, there are those who are coming to try to destroy Israel. So the opposite of God loves Israel forever. So what you have in 1976, Israel, 100 of its passengers on a Air France airline were abducted, hijacked by Arab, Palestinian, and German terrorists. What those terrorists were wanting to do was negotiate for the release of terrorists in Israeli prisons. Africa wasn't involved until the dictator of Uganda, Idi Amin, allowed the terrorists to store the plane and the hostages at Entebbe Airport in Uganda. This is from Jewish Telegraph Agency. It's called Idi Amin and Israel, First Love, Then Hate. In 1963, Idi Amin served as a Special Forces trainee of the Israel Defense Forces, earning his paratrooper wings. Back then, Amin had not yet begun the anti-Zionist and anti-Semitic salvos that later caught the attention of world Jewry. He was close friends with Israel, and similar to Nelson Mandela himself, had actually done military training in Israel. If you know anything about Israel's history, Golda Meir is one of the first foreign ministers who one of the African leaders called her the mother of Africa with all the agriculture and technology. And then she said, we're going to help Africa rebuild just like we had to rebuild it. Idi Amin was a close friend of Israel and the Jewish people. Amin had military ambitions against Tanzania, another neighboring East African country, which would also be considered part of Kush. He asked Israel for money and jet fighters to wage war, but the Jewish state turned down his request, and there you go. So when Amin went to Libya, where Muammar Gaddafi promised him financial aid, as a sign of his new allegiance, Amin expelled 500 Israelis from Uganda and severed diplomatic ties with Israel in 1972. And Amin, in his loyalty to the Islamists, Arab Islamists who hated Israel, turned on Israel and the Jewish people. He is now full-fledged anti-Zionist. Nowhere in this story have you heard something about what the Jews did to him, which is why I made that statement before. Candace Owens, Kanye West, and on. They follow a long line of people who were cool with the Jews until they weren't cool with the Jews, and they turned very viciously and libelously against the Jews. Amin also praised Hitler for his final solution to the Jewish crisis. Isn't that amazing? Like the game, Kanye talking about all the Heil Hitler stuff. Candace wants us to kind of revisit whether or not the Nazis did Joseph Goebbels really do? Isn't that amazing? It's a spirit, not just against, I'm criticizing Israel or criticizing some Jewish people. I'm going all the way to the Nazi thing. Amin shut down every synagogue in Uganda and beat and imprisoned observant Jews, demoralizing the community. Amin was against our grandfathers and fathers because of the Jewish religion. Sama Ben Sheva 37 told JTA, not just Israeli Jews, but other Ugandan Jews who had been in Judaism for generations. In other words, whether they were lighter skinned or darker skinned, he either drove them away or began to kill them. His aim was to deal with one religion, that was Islam. Remember the same folks who were talking all this smack about Israel never criticized Islam. From what Dennis Prager had written on his letter, he said, Candace, you talk about your concern about Christians being slaughtered, but you say you'll never criticize Islam, which is strange because Christians are being slaughtered by the thousands and thousands under Islam. But no, the Jews. But not only did he begin to expel the Israelis, not only begin to shut down the Jewish religion, right? Specifically the Jewish one, he became so maniacal that he wound up killing thousands of other Ugandans because he was so paranoid and wanted to keep power. The man lost it. And when he lost it, where the Israelis were concerned was when they refused to partner with him in his reign of terror. No nation is perfect. No people are perfect. Israel, like any other nation, has made mistakes. And there's a lot of stuff that Israel has gotten right. And that hard one right there, when they saw where it was going, they said, sorry, son. And he got mad at them and went full Heil Hitler, like Kanye West. He went full, the Jews are responsible for all the blah, 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 like Candace Owen. He went off on them, joined in with Yasser Arafat and the United Nations during the whole Zionism is racism, which leads us to the raid on Entebbe.
Truth to Power Live with Jimmy Study Washington.